Всем привет.
Hello. Slava, can I please share my screen? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody, all the participants of our third Russia and Caspian regional PETROBOWL qualifier. I'm so happy to see so many enthusiastic and happy faces. And I'm so honored to see our SPE president, Dr. Blessingame, joining us, even though it is very early for him in the morning, but he's here with us to greet all the students and congratulate you with this event. So this event wouldn't have happened if we did not have this many folks in organization committee to make this happen. And I'm truly honored that when you can see all these faces, all happy, smiling faces that spent so much their personal time to come up to this event. And this map is showing, this is our region, and all those stars are indicating people who participated in organizing this event. Those are professionals that spend their personal time to develop questions, to develop some logistical logistics to make this event happen. And now if we look at the map of participating teams, again, we can see that how diverse the participation pool of the students here. I'm not going to spend too much time because we have a couple of very saturated hours, but I just wanted to show all those pictures that I showed you earlier, all those organizers. I was trying to put them in one wall so that you can see these pictures, you can see these faces, and you will see those faces during the games during the next couple of days. Those are the people who dedicated their time, and some sections dedicated their money to make this event happen. So that's why I would like to thank all the organizers who participated in making this event happen, and all the sponsors who shared the resources. And you can see how truly regional this event is, that Moscow section, Atrau section, Astana, Azerbaijan, Kızıldağ, they donated their money to provide it to the students. And I would also like to thank our SPE staff who helped us behind the scenes, not only for this event, but all the events that we, all SPE sections, student sections or professional sections, all that is being organized. We have SPE staff who is helping us with that. You all of you, you know Slava, who is our pill. I don't even know how to say it in English. It's our надежный тыл, who knows everything about each section, and she helps us with everything. And now I would like to give a couple of words to another guest from SPE staff who is joining us from Europe. And he is the mastermind of the PETROBOWL globally. He helps all the sections, all the students to organize and guide on organizing regional and global PETROBOWL. James Whitaker. James, can you please give us a little bit of your time and greetings to the students and organizers?
Yes, certainly. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to get involved with the regional qualifiers. Exactly as Isana said, the amount of work that goes into organizing any one of these events is it's hard to fathom. Even as a student, you work so hard with studying and things like that. But I can guarantee you the team that Isana's just showed you they are working just as hard as all of you to make this happen. So yes, definitely a big thank you. It's a real pleasure working with all of you and seeing the fruits of your labor. I've run my fair share of regional qualifiers and championships over the past 5-6 years, and yeah, I can truly say you're all doing an incredible job. It's amazing to watch. So it's been an interesting year. Last year we had the kind of introduction of regional qualifiers going virtual. That was a big step, and I know the Russia and Caspian volunteers, they actually helped pioneer like the first way that all of the regions could succeed in hosting their regional qualifiers. And adapting the program is not an easy task. There's lots of tiny details that need to be organized. So really incredible job. So these faces that you see here, they're dedicated, hardworking champions of the future. So do look out for them. And it goes to say as well, the successes of these technologies is particularly important for the Russia and Caspian region, because you are the largest geographically speaking region. You cover so many different time zones and things like that. So incorporating these changes has been excellent, and seeing you all work together has been really good. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but congratulations to all of the organizers. Good luck to all of the teams participating. It's going to be a really great game, I'm really sure. So good luck, and if you ever have any questions about PETROBOWL, please do come to me. Always happy to help, and good luck, and hopefully I'll be seeing some of you at the championships as well.
Okay, thank you very much, James. And I still keep this slide so that you can see the names. You unfortunately you can see the names, but you can see the faces. But I would also like to say a special thank you to Atarao section. It is a truly regional event, but this year Atarao section took a lead, organizing and getting all of us together. This is a truly regional event, and I would like to thank Atarao section and the chairwoman of the Atarao section, Marjan. And now I'm gonna introduce, all of you know our regional director, Ignati, and I would like to ask Ignati to give us a couple of greeting words and introduce our president.
Thank you, Aijana. Thank you, team, and thank you all of the participants. Today's actually really great event. I see so many efforts put inside of it, so many people faces, energy, and this is the all helps to by the SPE efforts. And I really thankful for the team of most of the sections who took this responsibility and organized such a tremendous event in the really hard condition when we're unable to meet each other face by face, but happy to virtual atmosphere of this event, we can join each other. Actually, looking at the history of this event, it's interesting to underline that until 2019, the Russia and Caspian didn't have much opportunities to participate the qualifier as it was held in Europe. And due to some financial regulatory constraints, it was really hard, and the pretty with a lot of efforts to participate with our region to participate the qualifier and then move to global PETROBOWL. And thanks to Aijana, actually that was really her idea with her team at that moment to bring this event to our region. And this is was 2019 #1 event that was done by SPE team, and regional qualifier was to move closer to home. And now we have this perfect opportunity to have 2 spots for competition in the global event, which comes from the regional PETROBOWL qualifier for the first and the second place teams. Actually, the previous 2 years, this event was organized by Almaty, and there was kind of pioneers who brought up this opportunity to all the SPE world in our region. And thanks to Almaty, they create this format and did it for 2019 and 2020. In 2021, there was a decision, and pretty nice, to make a joint efforts among the sections with support of Almaty, Azerbaijan, Aterau section, and Russia, to take the active roles and organize all of it together. But Aterau section, I want to thank first of all to be a headliner of this event, and Marjan perfectly did this job. Actually, I always feel her passion to work with the students and to support them. Actually, this is the really things that she's doing by heart. And I also want to say thank you to all the student participants. This is the 14 teams today we will be seeing in competition from the Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Russia, from different universities. I see here the Aterau, the APEC College, the Gubkin University, Tashkent Gubkin University branch, and the Baku Higher School, Al-Farabi, St. Petersburg, Nazarbayev, Tomsk, so many of them. Actually, this is the really huge and the tremendous geography of this event, helps us to bring all together and show the power of SPE. And team, this is the perfect opportunity to see one of the most powerful scientist in the current engineering specialty, and the Mr. Blassingame, professor of Texas A&M, and actually, by the way, not only the scientist, but the SPE president 2021, who is find the time in his schedule to share with us his introductional speech. Thank you, Tom, for you, and happy to provide you this stage to deliver the main message. I seen the presentation is very tremendous today. Thank you.
So Ignati, you're ready for me to go, I assume?
Yes, please, Tom. Thank you.
Okay. Can everyone confirm they see my screen? I apologize, I'm operating on 3 screens today, so I sort of have to play a little game and move things around. Everybody okay?
Yes, sir.
Excellent picture.
James is giving me a thumbs up, so that makes me happy. Well, I just realized I'll see you again in 48 hours to talk about the outcome of this event. And I have to say, you know, honestly, PETROBOWL is the highest energy event we have. It's something where people get really excited and really emotional and really, you know, they want to do their best and so on. And as a teacher, I want you to do your best on everything. I want you to do your best on your homework. I want you to do your best on your research. I want you to do your best on your papers. But I have to confess that everybody's excited about PETROBOWL. And as the comments were made, an enormous amount of work goes on behind the scenes. You know, when you're young, you don't really appreciate how hard your parents had to work to take care of you, to teach you, to raise you, to exhibit right from wrong sometimes. This is one of those kind of events as well. I've learned through this journey that, you know, okay, I used to maybe say, well, PETROBOWL is for the people who are interested in it, but now I'm like, PETROBOWL is an enormous amount of work, and it's all for you. It's not for us, it's so that you have the opportunity to interact. I'd have to say also that even though we're all in our homes and in our offices and so forth, we're all connected globally in this virtual environment. And that may seem a little unusual, but probably going forward, this is going to be a major component because it allows us to connect over so many time zones and so many regions. So it's probably just a reality. I'm sure everyone would like to be in the same room and everyone would like to be enjoying each other's company and maybe having a little rivalry. But for now, this is going to work. I'm sure you'll have a great time. The other PETROBOWLs that I've sat in on have been very well moderated. I'm sure this one will be as well. Let me stop talking about PETROBOWL and talk to you a little bit about SPE. This is a presentation that has evolved over time. I first started out with my own sort of perspective on things, and I had some very kind staff, James, Slava, others who were nice enough to mention, you might want to say this, you might not want to say that. And then I had a staff person who really walked me through how to present the mission of SPE, and then I adapted it to my own style. So we're going to spend a while today talking about SPE and about how it affects you presently, but more importantly, how it affects you in the future. And if any of you listening to me thinks I can never be that person on the other end explaining SPE to thousands of people, I can promise you, you can and you will be. This organization allows you to have whatever role you want. It allows you to rise. It allows you to contribute to however you want. So I'm just going to stop there with all of that and explain to you, you can be in this chair giving this talk in a number of years from now. And I think you'll really be surprised how easy it is to have that kind of an attitude about the future of our industry, because our industry is so important. So without any more, I'll go straight into it. Okay, so a little bit of a refresher or maybe a hard message about how things are right this moment. And this is a little bit unfair because the last month and a half have been really good financially for our industry. Certainly in the stock market, things are improving, but the job market still really lags. And for those of you who are young, I know this is tough. I get it. The job market's tough. It's never been tougher. It's really, it's the worst time ever. And we have to admit that. But there's a silver lining, because as we come out of this time, there will be jobs, there will be positions, there will be opportunities to create, opportunities to deliver. You'll see that. So the challenges right now for our industry really are about public perception, which is, we have a lot of difficulty with the public in developed environments like the US and like Western Europe and other places, probably your own home countries as well. It is something that we have to face. We cannot argue with the public. We cannot educate the public. We cannot, teach the public. We have to partner with the public, and we have to admit we don't have all the answers. The ability to generate cash flow, and as I mentioned, this is now a couple of months old, but this is improving. In fact, I had a conversation yesterday with someone who said we've really been able to improve how we do things in this pandemic. We've been able to consolidate and create opportunities to generate cash flow, but we still need innovation, especially in our people. So keep that in mind as well. The industry consolidation, you may not be seeing it so much where you are, but we see a lot of it. There are consolidations of companies and so forth. The loss of senior and incoming talent has been tremendous, especially anyone probably over 50 years old. That's 50 they've been encouraged to take retirement. Certainly anyone over 55 has, and incoming talent such as yourself, there's a lot of stress in that pipeline. We're concerned whether or not we'll be able to attract and retain and deliver young talent to the industry. The opportunities are that we provide safe, secure, and abundant energy. That supply will tighten at some point. You're seeing that now with the movement in the oil price. It's hard to say how strong that will be. I gave this talk a few weeks ago and then was followed by someone else who said that they thought that we would see $100 a barrel. That's 100 US dollars per barrel sometime in 2021. I hope not, because that creates an oscillatory behavior, but it is possible. The need to attract new talent, just like I mentioned, so attracting students, attracting externally people in certain areas, particularly in digitalization. And then, of course, we are the key to energy transition. And I get a lot of challenge, or I should almost say punishment, for this attitude. But if our industry doesn't take energy transition seriously, no one will. We will be the ones that facilitate it. And let me explain facilitate in my context. Facilitate means that we provide the base load of energy for this planet. And we need to continue to do that, but we also need to enable and to engage with other energy suppliers. And that's the way we need to define ourselves, as an energy supplier. Short-term perspectives, conventional resources will continue to dominate. That's the easy oil, if you want to call it that. And it's because it generates cash flow. Investment in equipment will lag. That's new drilling technologies, new completion technologies, new hardware, if you want to think about it that way. And then investment in automation will serve. And long-term perspectives, natural gas is going to dominate, of course, because it's a transition fuel. And then there's no real alternative for oil and gas as chemical feedstocks and other kinds of resources for industry, for just about anything you could think of. I used to go down the list, but even things as diverse as medicine and food are enabled by oil and gas. We have to remember that. So what can you do right now? This is how students are looking at this. And we had a president in the United States named Theodore Roosevelt, and he said, do what you can with what you have where you are. He was a very independent-minded fellow. And as students, you have to do this. You have to do your best in school. Good grades open doors, not so good grades don't open doors. Make sure that your skills are as sharp as they can be. This is really important. And make sure you have a demonstrated work ethic. I don't care what you did, but make sure that you have some evidence that you work hard, whether you worked in a side job, whether you worked in school, whether you have some evidence of your capability to be responsible and to deliver results. Consider any job and every job. This is a real challenge right now in our domain. Students are graduating, and literally every day, even yesterday, I had someone contact me and say, I have a job where I'm going to be interviewed. I'm not sure whether it's the right company for me. And I said, what's the argument? Just impress them with your skills and see if they're right for you, you're right for them. You know, your first job is not your last. It's just a place to start. And that's important for you. Build your network, but don't be a LinkedIn junkie. SPE has a lot of resources, which we can talk about another time, but we have a lot of people who are as enthusiastic as the PETROBOWL folks today, who also help people get jobs and to expose them to recruiting and so forth. And there are some do's and don'ts, and one of them is, if you're going to use LinkedIn, use it right. Otherwise, people are going to ignore you, and you'll see that if you try. Get out there. Jobs are not going to come to you. You're going to have to go to them. What should I do if I don't get a job? This is something that I had to deal with quite a bit as a faculty advisor this year. And, you know, you just have to tell people, be realistic. Everyone finds their path eventually. And, you know, I said almost everyone because I was talking about me. If you really want to work, you're going to have to, you know, have a real obsessive focus on getting a job. By the way, this was something a recruiter said recently as well, even though these notes, I said it before. So old people sometimes get it right. If you don't want to, or sorry, if you do want to continue your education, you're going to have to use this as an opportunity to become much stronger. You know, don't use it to hide from the storm. Use it to get stronger. Go to the top school. Take hard classes, you know, do hard research, develop new skills. So I know I spent a little too long on that, but I'll speed up. This is something that I dealt with this week. You'll notice the date was a couple of days ago. And I was asked by this group to address these. So I'll just come out really fast and address these. So we are energy transition, and I jokingly say I'm trademarking that phrase. Fossil fuels are critical to make renewables viable. If we're going to talk about energy density as a fuel, then of course hydrogen is going to win, but we have to generate hydrogen. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the world, or in the universe, they say, but it's also the least isolated. It always forms with something else. So we're going to have to extract hydrogen. We're going to have to use energy to do that. Now, fortunately, we know how to extract it. We know how to transport it. We know how to store it. Our industry does. So we're probably going to be the enabling energy industry for hydrogen, but that will take anywhere from, I mean, my personal prediction could be completely wrong, will be 50 to 100 years. The scale, it will be enormous to convert to hydrogen. I am not popular for my perspectives on this, but I'm also not someone who's going to tell you that the world didn't change. The world did change, and we have to justify ourselves. We have to work a lot harder for our industry. Yes, we still have to deliver 97 million barrels a day of oil. We have to deliver 0.4 TCF a day of gas in this planet. And that's our job. That's what we do. That's what we were trained for. That's what we love. But we also have to look to the side and make sure we are engaged in the energy transition. Digital transformation, someone asked me about this to explain. We did create a new technical director position. I even had a call with them last night to go over some things. We do have a new significantly enhanced OnePetro platform, as I'm sure you're aware. We are focused on the delivery and retention of virtual content. So things like this will be captured and be available for someone 20 years from now, if you wish. There will be numerous SPE and SPE collaborative initiatives. You'll see our sister societies and us participating in digital events. That even happened this week as well. And we have very high digital ambitions. We'd like to see 20 to 25% of our content be digitalization related. Some people say it should be 0.2%, but others really believe that this is the future and that digitalization will be a major component of what we do moving forward. I think the reality lies somewhere in between, but face it, if you're looking at a career path of say 35 to 40 years, digitalization is definitely going to be a big part of that. SPE publications, the review and revision process is much faster. It's seen as impartial. That's good. We don't have a commercial interest in it, is what I mean. Not everyone is happy. Trust me, when you become SPE president, you're going to get lots of emails, and not a majority, but quite a few of them are about publications. Questions remain about what we want to do with publications in the future. But my last word really is get involved, write papers, and serve on volunteer to serve on technical review committees. If you can't find a way to do that, send me an email. My email's on every slide. I'm happy to help. Digital reality is we have over 200,000 distinct items on our SPE websites. That includes OnePetro, of course. We have tried to engage in improving our way of finding what you want, hence the new OnePetro platform. But realistically, subject matter experts, they're difficult to emulate. People like myself and others on this call who've spent their lives in technology, it's very difficult to emulate that with some sort of an AI tool. But that is one of the things we're working on. In other words, we want to extract information from those 200,000 items and present it to you in a way where you can use it. It's difficult to distinguish the value of content for an individual or a device, an automated device. We have to face that reality. Everyone's going to be different. And an interesting fact is the content volume has doubled every 10 years since 1950. This is just a progression of the number of SPE papers prepared and archived per year. So I think it's amazing that it's an exponential increase. And last but not least, there is a new SPE research portal. It is in its infancy, and in English, that means that it has just been born. So I'm sure it's not going to be perfect, but it is a tool that is being developed by SPE to try to capture this information or to try to assist you in a search of that information. So you may want to give that a try as well. It shows different metrics, it shows connections, it shows how information is related in the database. And again, it's a trial tool, and it explains that when you log in, but it's something you may want to try. So now on with the show. SPE is your career survival guide. It gives you career management, skills development, maintenance learning, networking, technical information, as we've been talking about, tools and references. And then we have tips, tricks, hacks, and so forth. And next, we'll talk very quickly about some progression of membership. If we look at 2008, these are our numbers in 2008. If we look at 2019, these are the numbers. Now, I will warn you that in between, we had much higher numbers between 2008 and 2019, and 2014 or 15, I believe, was our best year. James and Slava can confirm that, but I just want to give you an idea of what the data looks like. And then of course we have a bar chart, and this shows my generation, the 1997 group, and it shows where we were in 1997. About 40% of our, the majority of our membership was in the age group of 40 to 44, and then 10 years later, it was in this range, or you can see us moving through this distribution as I'm talking about. This is my generation, I guess, or maybe I wasn't quite in this generation. I was sort of between this and you, but that's okay. I'm a lot younger than I look, but and I'm certainly I act my age. I'm a lot younger in that sense. But this is your generation, the blue bars in 2019 or so, and you can see that we again have a dominance of young people. I will tell you that 2020 is a lot flatter, and that is a difficult to interpret membership curve. It has to do with the fact that we were affected so much by the pandemic, but still, this is a very, very good time to be a young person in oil and gas. I know it doesn't seem that way, but you are here, and this is where you're starting, and you have your whole career to go through, and there will be a vacuum of people in your career, and many times people say, what do you mean? Well, the fact that we eliminated so many older people, the fact that it's difficult to attract people to the industry means that the burden of the industry will be on you. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but that also provides opportunities for leadership and the opportunity really for you to chart your own path in a different way than perhaps my generation did. The most significant single challenge for any professional society is to remain relevant to its members. And I need your help with this. If there's something that you see that's, we need to do this, you have my email. I'm happy to hear about it. But there's also a reality that we have to adapt and change with the times, and we have to see what's next. I'll need your help with that as well. Okay, so SPE is also the integration of your skill set. I wanted to say it starts when you start your SPE membership and it ends when you die, but the staff didn't like that. They said it was too negative. So we'll just say retirement. But for most of us, retirement will not be the end of our learning curve. And, I think it's important to realize that if you took SPE's resources away from me personally, that would be a major catastrophe. I'm not sure where I could create value without having access to those resources. And I'm sure many of you feel the same way. So let's talk a little bit about that. Of course, SPE provides access to the things like One Petro, SPE Connect, and to a lesser degree, but a very popular tool is something called PetroWiki, which is used by students. But the technical knowledge set really hasn't changed since the 1940s. Now, every time I say that, people go, wait a minute, 1940s was a long time ago. Yes, I know it was 80 years ago, but the things that define a petroleum engineer haven't changed that much. General knowledge, oil and gas drilling systems, production, operations, petrophysics, formation evaluation, geology, reservoir and well performance, reservoir engineering, reservoir fluids. These really haven't changed that much since the 1940s. The topics, of course, the things inside the topics have changed a great deal, but the topics themselves. Of course, project evaluation, which really translates to reserves and economics. Ignati will tell you about that. He's heading our reserves and economics group within the board as well. And then we're looking at integrated and multidisciplinary teams, which came along about 30 years ago. And that became a major part of how we operate. In other words, we sit next to each other in the office or in virtual environment. We are constantly engaged with our geoscience colleagues, but we also need to become engaged with beyond that, facility colleagues as well. Some of the emerging needs and skills, unconventional reservoir technology, statistics, and data manipulation. That's what my generation called it. You call it data analytics or machine learning. Then we have the health, safety, environmental, plus sustainability, which as I'm sure you've seen, we have a big push in our messaging on sustainability, and we can talk about that some other time as well, but that's our public facing approach. And again, it's to engage with the public. And then something called ESG, which is really part of the sustainability, but it's environmental, social, and corporate governance. And this is a major factor in investments and in how we're seen by the public. So this is something we have to deal with as well. And then what I was suggesting earlier is we really need to integrate the disciplines more, the drilling, the completion, the reservoir, the production of facilities. And I'll talk more about this, but you're going to have to master 2 of these disciplines in your career, and possibly a third. It could be an energy transition discipline, but you personally are going to have to be you're going to have to master 2 of these. So you're going to have to be very good at least 2 of these disciplines, and maybe 3. Standardization, traditional areas, North America and Western Europe. Emerging areas, yourselves, former Soviet Union, Africa, Southeast Asia, Middle East. Well, what we really need here is for companies to engage with us and help us establish those standards. They have standards inside of companies for how people are promoted and so forth, and how they're recognized, how they're evaluated, but these need to be standardized a bit across our SPE landscape. So what we would call maybe a senior production engineer in a super major would be somewhat equivalent to a senior production engineer in a smaller company. That's the kind of example I'm giving. The skill set, the demonstrated technical capability would have to be something that we standardize. As a real quick little comparison, and I don't mean it to be easy, but it is, I took the US unemployment rate, the oil price, the coffee price, and the gold price, and I normalized them between their minimum and maximum, and I projected them over time. And so in each one of these 3 plots, I'm comparing the oil price in green with some metric. And in this case, it's the United States unemployment rate. And I know you're thinking, well, what the hell does that have to do with anything? But I wanted to show you that the oil price is actually a leading indicator for unemployment in the United States. And it's amazing how well this is correlated through the last 40 years. Similarly, coffee, and coffee is an extremely volatile product price. I had to smooth these data. It actually corresponds reasonably well with oil as well. There are some lagging and leading indicators, and there's also some counter correlative trends, but suffice it to say that commodities have very volatile price structures. And you can see how even something as unrelated seemingly as coffee and oil have a similar pattern. Last is gold, and gold was a little bit undervalued probably in the 1980s, and you can see that although it did track the scale of the, not the scale of the oil price, but the trend of the oil price, even throughout time up until about 2014, where they separated, that was when the price of oil was essentially artificially lowered, and the nature of gold, it became a reserve, so people invest in that. But I just wanted to show you that over time, commodities vary significantly, but also that the oil price can be an indicator of economic behavior at a global scale. I want to emphasize that no matter what anybody says, oil prices still are, or the value of our commodity is still greatly tied to the industry, and I'll give a couple of slides about that later on. Sorry, it's greatly tied to the global economy, and I'll give you a couple of slides about that later. SPE differentiates you. I know everybody loves this. You know, I couldn't think of any other way to write this, so I wrote it this way. It allows you to network, to have skills development, to have a leadership experience, and to provide volunteerism. So this slide, I want, if you're sort of dazing or looking at something else, I want you to stop and think about what this slide is going to tell you. What can you do for SPE? So this is my moment to talk to you about what you can do for SPE, and then how can you contribute. As a student, you can participate in your student chapter. I'm sure many of you have. You can participate in your regional section. This is one of the benefits for us with, and I shouldn't say benefit, but this is one of the things that happened with COVID or with the pandemic, is that we became much closer, much closer to our regional section. And even a few emails this morning, which is the middle of the night for me where I am, I'm seeing our regional section and our student chapter collaborating. This was not the case in the past. We have a reasonably good relationship with our regional section, but what has happened is, because we're invited to all of their meetings now and vice versa, we have a much stronger relationship with our regional section. I would suggest that for you as well. You can participate in chapter committees, but if you do that, realize you have a huge responsibility, especially in a chapter our size, where I really emphasize, you know, taking responsibility, taking initiative, and, you know, you cannot, if you're not able to commit to this, you probably shouldn't do it. But, you know, we can talk about that some other time, but you can participate in a chapter committee, but be ready to commit to that. You can engage with technical experts almost at random. Anybody you want to contact will probably reply to your email. You can create an event in your student chapter. Our student chapter, for example, we just did our annual review. We had 129 events in 2020. Our year, starting in March, ending in April, kind of thing. But during that period of time, only 27 of those events were actually physical events. The rest were virtual. So we had 112 virtual events. So it's very easy now to take the initiative and to create a virtual event in your student chapter, or to create a physical event as well, of course, as long as you adhere to your university's guidelines. Create a training opportunity, participate in the e-mentoring program. And these are things that you can do right now as a student. What about as a member? You can participate in a program or service committee. If you can't find something to do, send an email to myself or to someone else and we will help you do so. You can nominate a colleague for an award. A lot of people don't know that, but students can do that. Certainly you can write a paper, and if I were to say what I would like, I'd like for you to move that to the top, because I think every person has this outstanding paper in their head that they want to write. And maybe you're saying, well, I'm young, I don't know how to do that. Of course, we all were. We all had our first paper, but you have something in you that you need to say. This is especially true of older people, but you just never had an opportunity to do so. Now's a good time to write a paper. You can create a community service experience. You can create a mentoring opportunity for students. You can create a technical event in your section. Ignati and Ajana will tell you that, SPE, the big SPE, likes to tell you what to do, but they're not here today. Oops, James is. Oops, Slava is. But I can tell you that if you want to create a technical event in your section, like as not, you're going to be able to do that. Create a social and networking event, and of course, volunteer for section leadership. One of the issues that we've had in the pandemic is that our section leadership has often been affected, and I wanted to say a stronger word than that, but let's just say affected. People are having to focus on their jobs, or they're having to focus on their lack of jobs, and there are some real challenges. So there's a vacuum in section leadership where you can participate. Now, obviously, students wouldn't necessarily be well suited for that. You'll have to have more experience and so forth. But just as a comment, if you know someone who's in industry and they're saying, what can I do? Have them volunteer for section leadership. Some of the benefits of volunteerism: learning how SPE works from the bottom up, learning how to function in an organization, learning how to lead without authority. And a lot of young people say, what does it mean to lead without authority? You're looking at it. Ajana and Ignati and I, we serve on the board of directors. This is a very diverse group. You cannot say, we are going to do this. You have to say, what do we want to do, and how can we focus on doing that as a group? So it's not with authority, it's really with a collaborative mentality. How to construct events and programs, how to work with your peers. I've had many people tell me that they never knew how hard working with people was until they were in a situation where they did not treat them as a superior. But my career, because academics, of course, are all equal, we've always had to work with each other, even sometimes when we didn't want to. And maybe that's the best way of explaining it. You learn how to work with people across every spectrum. And you can learn how to create something from scratch. One of the things that SPE does is it's a white piece of paper. You can create anything you want as long as you can build the coalition or the collaboration to do it. A lot of people say, how do I volunteer, Tom? I want you to help me to find something to volunteer. Well, a lot of people say that when I talk about this, I'm just pushing you to the volunteer portal. But the reality, as Ajana and Ignati will confirm, is that volunteer portal is our main place for where people go to establish themselves, to say, here's what I want to do. Everything that you do in the volunteer portal is reviewed by a person. And sometimes you might need a little push from me. If you'll tell me or tell Ajana or tell Ignati that you're volunteering and write a note in the volunteer section, then the staff will contact them and say, is this person ready for this role? And, that's true. They will do that if that becomes necessary. So the thing I would like to say to you is, do not volunteer to become SPE president. Do not volunteer to become the committee chair if you're just starting out. Be realistic. And volunteer, start where it's appropriate. Usually for me, that's at the bottom. I like to learn about things, but we'll talk about that some more in a few minutes as well. So SPE transforms the world. A lot of people say, okay, What do you mean by that? Well, let's look at these energy curves. Unfortunately, the units might be a little unfamiliar, but this is how they're reported. This is a logarithmic scale of global energy production, which is essentially global energy consumption. And that's quadrillion BTUs per year. So however you want to think of this, petajoules, watts, whatever, this is a unit of energy, and it is how much per year we produce. The most important curve, of course, is the cumulative curve, and you'll notice that since 1965, approximately, this cumulative curve has been on an exponential increase. Now, that is a major challenge for the people of this planet to continue to produce this much energy to provide for a very significantly growing and diverse population. But if you had an investment, or if you had a factory, or if you had, God knows, not a family, but if it were increasing exponentially, that would be a major challenge to keep that fed. So this is your job, is to keep this total energy production fed throughout time. And like I said, since 1965, it has been on a constant exponential increase. Oil has been increasing, coal has been increasing, natural gas has been increasing, hydropower has been increasing, all of these exponentially. Nuclear had a very rapid utilization. It was increasing throughout the 1980s and 90s. There was a little bit of a flattening because of decommissioning of nuclear power plants. And of course, we had the Fukushima accident. But even now, nuclear power is still increasing. Geothermal and biomass, because of the way they're added together, had, historically this would have been wood. This probably would have been, I don't know, lack of wood and maybe lack of geothermal. And then again, for the last, 50 plus years, we've had an exponential increase, albeit at a lower level, for geothermal and biomass. And then, of course, we have what we call renewables, which in our case is wind and solar. And you can see it has a very similar to nuclear utilization, very rapid initial utilization, and then a rollover feature. And everyone understands it doesn't really matter what the units are over here, because we're going to divide them each by the orange curve. So when we do that, the fraction of coal is decreasing. The fraction of oil peaked in the 1980s. And this is the fraction of utilization, not the entire volume of that particular energy source. So natural gas is still increasing. Hydropower is still increasing. Nuclear, it went flat and then decreased and then it's flat again. This is the utilization. And then geothermal and biomass really reflects its prior curve, but it's also increasing. Wind and solar, it's a little bit easier to see here. Wind and solar have a very rapid increase. And then again, there's a rollover feature. We're not really sure what the rollover is going to look like. Is it this? Is it this? It's very difficult to say, but realistically, over the next 25 to 30 years, the global utilization of renewables will be somewhere between 20 and 25%. All major estimates are in that category. Some might be less, some places might be utilizing renewables less, but it will be part of the mix. So right now, the 2019 estimates are about 32% oil, about 29% coal, about 24% gas, about 7% hydropower, 5% nuclear. And then wind and solar is at 3.3% globally. Some places may be higher, a lot of places will be lower. And then biomass is about 1.4%. So if I were looking at this as a young person, I would say, holy cow, this is an amazing opportunity to go into a career where I have to get up every day and really work hard just to keep this curve fed. And oil and gas do dominate right now. They will continue to dominate the energy fraction. Coal will drop faster, but in places like India and China, coal utilization is very high, and other places as well, even Africa, it will be. But over time, coal will drop off because of how we face the public, of course. Oil and gas will continue to be flat or to dominate well into the 2050s. But of course, we do have competition from renewables, and we should embrace that competition. As a young person, you should look forward to that. Very quickly, I made some slides recently, and I apologize. This is my homework, so if you don't like it, feel free to complain. But I made some relative changes using 1970 as a starting point. The population since 1970 has a bit more than doubled. And that's a lot of people when you think about it. But it did sort of roll over, thankfully, in the 1980s or 1990s and 2000 to a slightly different slope. The global GDP, which I know, you try to explain this to your wife or your kids or your dog, and they look at you kind of crazy. But GDP is an indicator. It's not, money is a manufacturer of people, but it is an exponentially increasing factor or metric. This probably should be expected because as every person begins to contribute to the global economy, the GDP does or should be proportional. And again, it is a perfect exponential straight line since 1970. Total energy production, depending on how you want to look at the wiggles, is also a perfect straight line. There are some wiggles in it, and we need to discuss those wiggles some other time, but it is also an exponential increase. When we take the total energy production and divide it by the total population, so this would be energy per capita, it was constant for about 35 years, 25, 30 years in this region. And then there was a change, and this was the emerging economies coming on board. But it also tells you that as a society, we are using more energy per person in 2019 than we did, say, in 2000. This is something to really think about. That energy comes in the form of transport. It comes in the form of using energy for your home or for your business or whatever it might be. We are a very energy hungry society. I'm going to jump to the last curve because I really don't know what this one means. It is sort of a straight line, but looking at the last curve, which is a global population multiplied by the global GDP divided by total energy, which this really turns out to just be global GDP divided by global energy per capita. We have an absolutely perfect straight line, and then it transitions, and then it goes back on the same slope again. So what this tells you is essentially representing this behavior with GDP added, is that this is a very predictable sort of trend. And as energy providers, we have to recognize this is our job security. We're going to be doing this for a long, long time. Energy enables the economy. I'll just stop and say that. SPE is sustainable. I have to give credit where credit is due. This is our public-facing part of SPE. Joanna Dunlap, who is now rolled off. We have a new person in that role on the board level. She was instrumental in laying out the sort of the story of SPE's journey in sustainability. She spent her entire career in this area. We also had a president a couple of years ago, Samuel Nawam, who was really emphasizing this public-facing sustainability. I won't go into the detail here, but let's just say this is a major effort across the board. It has been a little bit quiet during the pandemic, as of all things, but they're about to emerge with quite a few events and opportunities to engage in the public. And of course, all of this is around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So I'll just make a quick note to that, but to emphasize to you that we really do want to have an emphasis on this. So I know we're almost out of time, so I'll finish with a few comments about what we do really matters. We have about 1 billion people on this planet who don't have clean water. We have about 2 billion people on this planet who don't have secure water. We have about 2 billion people on this planet who don't have adequate sanitation, about 1 billion people on this planet who have no electricity, another 2.5 billion who don't have access to clean cooking, which, as you know, is a major health consideration, not only from not having the opportunity to cook, but also if the cooking environment is worse in terms of breathing and so forth, that could really affect people's health and their mortality rate. We have about 1 billion people without sufficient food, about 2 billion people without secure food. We have about 1 billion people without safe and secure housing. And then the one that really affects me is we have about 250 million, that's with a B, children on this planet with zero education, none. Then we have about 4 billion people who don't have access to the internet as we do in this fashion. So think about what 1 billion is. And if you were to count, what 1 billion seconds is, it would be an enormous amount of time to count to 1 billion, 32 years if you were counting 1 second at a time. So career guidance, let's go through a really quick checklist. Good managers do things right. I would not be a good manager, by the way. That's your strengths. Good leaders do the right things. That's different. You know, good leaders are people who do the right things. This reflects their values. Great achievements are a desire to succeed, which is a fact of life. Great achievers make great sacrifices. That could be your family. That's something to think about. Ambition is fine, but know your limitations. If you ever want to know about this, feel free to send me an email. I can assure you I have plenty of experience with limitations. Your career choice, your values, your skill set, which is a reality. You may not like it, but the better your skills, the more valuable you are. And experience is your limitation. You need to listen, you need to learn, and then you can lead. Get it in order. 70% of young engineers want management. About 3% may get it. Are you fit for command? People say, well, I want to be a leader. You have to ask yourself, am I really fit for command? Yes, no, maybe. These are questions that only you can answer about yourself. Choices, you know, my parents, they came from a very modest background, which in simple languages, they were very poor. They taught me that there are no wrong choices, but there are consequences to your choices. Think about that. And then commitments, you're only as good as your word. Now, learning how to work, you're paid to complete tasks, so don't waste time. You're paid to make decisions, so don't be afraid to make a decision. You will make mistakes, but never put anybody at risk. You're not in school anymore, so there are no grades, but there is a paycheck. That's for those of you who are working. And then you work with incomplete data. So really the message there is analyze, don't guess. One of the things that I try to explain to everyone about petroleum engineering is we work with very sparse data sets. The reason we're paid well, the reason we're so busy, the reason that we have such important decisions to make is because we have sparse data sets. We have to make decisions based on our experience, based on our understanding, based on our ability to diagnose, to interpret, and to analyze, but we don't guess. People who guess end up in trouble. And I just want to leave you with that as a piece of advice. Last thing, I'll just go over this very quickly, is I had a series of questions posed to me. You're free to ask these, you're free not to, but I get a lot of questions about what's the future of petroleum engineering? What is the role of petroleum engineers? What happened with the so-called big crew change? How can you as a new generation interact with what's called energy transition or energy evolution, or now another phrase, energy addition? How can practicing petroleum engineers adjust to this new reality? And then what do I see as SPE's role, or what does anyone in this chair see as SPE's role? And then how do we support our members? And then last, is how do we try to shape the public perception? And I do want to say again, do not try to educate the public. Do not try to inform the public. Do not ever lecture to the public. Get into some sort of a partnership with them. Let them see that you believe in the environment, that you like dogs, you like kids, you like sports. Let them understand that you're very committed to the same things they are. That's how you build a partnership. Last thing, I made this slide as well. I assume this data is accurate. I show that the change in total energy production is proportional to the change in the world GDP. This is since 1961, so approximately my lifespan. And what you can see is good times are good and bad times are not so good. And that's just the nature of our industry. There are a lot more factors involved. You can't just draw a straight line on everything, but in reality, good times are good, bad times are not good. So you have to accept that. So with that, I'm done, and I'm happy to wish you all well and to say to you, good luck. And, hopefully the PETROBOWL is a lot of fun. I want you to have fun. I don't want you to think about, well, I could have answered this question differently, or I should have answered, or I should have done this, or those guys, they contested our result and I'm not happy about them. No, this is for fun, guys. This is about learning how to collaborate, learning how to get along with people, have a good time with it. I did have one little personal slide, or I have a couple of personal slides, but this is one of my jobs. And Miss Ajana, she knows this well. She was involved in the leadership of our student chapter when she was a student. And it was just a couple of years ago, it seems like, that she was a student. There you go, Ajana, I threw that to you. But our student chapter is really my primary job. My wife tells me that, I spend an enormous amount of time with them because you're the future. and we should be. If we're in a position to do so and we have the enthusiasm to do so, which I do, you know, it's my day job. So there's never a dull moment. There are some where you pull your hair out, but you know, I really enjoy my time with students, not because I'm old and you're young, but you're young and I'm young at heart. And I see the future as how you're going to shape it. And I'm very impressed and I want to be a part of that, I guess. But moreover, you're our investment, you're our legacy, you're the value of this industry, and it's our responsibility to help take care of you. So with that, I'll stop. I'll end with a personal slide. You know, people always say, what are you really like? Well, this is me. So, but you don't really want to talk about me. So I'll go back to the student chapter. Again, thank you very much for this invitation. I look forward to seeing you again in 47 hours. I hope everyone's going to be happy and with the outcome. If you're not, take a couple of days, be unhappy, but then get right back in and be happy again. PETROBOWL is for fun. I want you guys to enjoy yourself. Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to seeing you again in 47 hours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That was a very passionate, very useful information for all of us, the students and the professionals in this call. And this is a perfect opportunity for those who don't see the Mr. President very often. And we have allocated 20 minutes or so for your questions. Please feel free to ask questions to Dr. Blassingame or to the regional director or to anyone in this call who you would like to talk to or get more perspective. Please raise your hand and ask your questions, and don't be shy.
I'm going to stop sharing just in the interest of everybody's sanity. You've gotten tired of looking at my slides, so if that's okay with everyone, I'll stop sharing. So here we go. Happy to answer any questions. I know you guys are ready to go to PETROBOWL, so if you need 20 extra minutes to study, I'm happy to give those back to you, but if you have any questions that I could help with, feel free to ask. Don't be shy. I don't bite, except sometimes I bite my dogs, but you know, that's when they bite me.
Hey,
Well,
student.
John, I think they're ready to go to PETROBOWL. I think they've had enough of listening to the old guys and they want to get going on PETROBOWL.
Okay. I'm going to give you 5 more minutes to think about it. And in the meantime, I just wanted to share this slide. And guys, as Dr. Blassingame said, this is for fun. And we wish you, all the professionals on this call, we wish you luck, all of the team. I know that you studied hard and you worked on preparation for this game. So good luck to you. Bring your best to the games. Most important, respect each other, respect all your team members and the opposite teams, your facilitators and judges, because everybody here, we're here to do our best with all the good intentions. And enjoy the game. This is the opportunity for you that you will remember for a long time. And this is opportunity for you to have fun, to see the familiar faces now. This is maybe not so much a networking as it would have been if we were in person, but nevertheless, in a number of years, you will see some familiar face in one of the conferences or in one of the meetings, because oil and gas industry is very small, even regionally, even globally, it's very small. You will see familiar faces that sometimes back in 2021 you competed with, or you just saw that face on a Zoom call. So enjoy these moments, have fun. Don't take it too close to heart. It's a game. It's a competition, but at the same time, it's a game. So I gave you those 5 minutes to think about the questions for Dr. Blassingame, or to Ignati, or to James, or to Marjan, or to myself, to anyone. And we have so many other professionals here on the call that would like to engage with you and happy to answer any questions.
Well, we have two questions, Ajana. I think you can see them, Mr. Torui and Ms. Idris. Is that right? So I'll defer to you, Ajana, however you want to call on them. Mr. Torui, you were first, so do you want to go first?
Sure, please go ahead and unmute yourself and answer and ask your question.
We're not hearing him. I'm not sure why. You want to write it in the chat? Whatever works. We're still not hearing him. Are you hearing him, Ajana? I'm not hearing.
No, I'm not hearing.
I think he might put it. He might put it in the chat. Idris, you're next.
Good afternoon to all. I have a question. I'm really interested in data science. I can't study it. Should I, can I really take internship in oil company with summer, or should I consider some other field to get internship?
Okay. The question is, should you take an internship in the oil and gas company, or should you take something else? I might advise you differently in another year, whether it's 2015 or 2025. But in 2021, I have to say, take whatever job you can get and get some experience, get some exposure. If it's related to the industry, that's best. But if it's not, that's okay too. No one is going to judge you in this time for not having, worked directly in the oil and gas industry. I had several students who did not have internships last year, and several who will not have internships this year. And, they say, well, it doesn't look good on my resume. Yeah, I know that, but everybody is having the same problem. So my advice, of course, is if you can get an internship with an oil and gas company, even if it's doing something physical, like working in the field, that will give you a lot of credibility. But if you can't, then take whatever employment you can. Hopefully it's something related to oil and gas, and that will, you need to build your resume, your dossier. Absent that, if you can't get a job, then make sure you do something with your summer. Take a class, maybe take online classes, maybe do volunteer work, but make sure you're not sitting at home enjoying your mother's cooking and your father yelling at you to go get a job. Those that's the worst case scenario. But even in 2020, that happened to a lot of my students as well. So we just have to accept that this is a very unusual time, and companies will respect that as well. So my advice, of course, is to take whatever you can get in the oil and gas industry. But if not, take something related to oil and gas. And if that doesn't work either, that's fine. If you're worried that working in McDonald's isn't going to look good on your resume, don't worry about that. Working anywhere in this time is going to look good on your resume. Hopefully that helps answer it.
Thank you for advice. Really appreciate it.
Of course, and good luck to you. I think things are going to start to pick up quickly. It'll depend, on how the pandemic is seen, but we have great expectations for the third and fourth quarter of this year. I guess everybody knows that as well, but again, I wish all of you to be finding the things you need to find. Looks like that's about it, Ajana. And Mr. Torui, feel free to send me an email, and I'll happy to answer your question there if that's okay. Whoa, there's a lot of, okay. How is it SPE's intention to support and facilitate independent research on the tremendous amount of data generated recently in an open source database? Okay, deep breath. This is a fantastic question. And it is one that I started 2 study groups on. One was to acquire data and to put it out on a public site, which we have done. This is unconventional well performance data. It is on the SPE website. It is a user login, so you have to be a member, a student member, and you can log in and retrieve the data. The other is an SPE workshop on open source. And when I say, you know, I facilitated this work group, I mean that I saw a need, I gathered people, they created the resource. So in May, there will be a workshop on open source, and I would encourage you to take a look at that. I'm not sure how we're going to let students attend because it's an industry function, but you know, if you really want to do it, I can probably whisper to somebody to at least let you watch. But this is exactly, it's amazing. It's like you've been in my head. This is exactly what we've been working on the last year or so in terms of making data sets available to the members so that they can do what they want. And obviously the open source coding part is also for people who want to share code and share resources that SPE may have generated over time. And his last point is exactly correct. We did this because it is very difficult to get data from the companies. And moreover, it's also difficult to get companies to engage with us on this. But we thought that the best way to do it was to create these events, these open source events. And, you know, again, we'll have one next month. And again, if you feel like you want to attend, just send me an email and I'll try to encourage the staff and the leadership of that group to allow some students in. There is a cost associated with it, obviously, and it would be prohibitively high for a student. But you know, at least maybe we can make this material available after the fact. I'll discuss that with Ignati since he's the regional director and on the board of directors. That's a really good idea. I don't think I could ever have asked for a better question at 1:15 in the morning, my time. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate this because this question relates to something that I've been having in the works. So thank you very much for reinforcing that wasn't a crazy idea. Thank you. And Ajana, I'm going to say it's time for them to start PETROBOWL. I don't want to hold them back any longer. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. And if they do have a question, they're welcome to send me an email.
Okay, yes, sir. So thank you very much. I see in the chat is something
He was just thanking me for responding to that. And I, again, want to thank him. I owe him a Christmas hug or something. You know, that was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to see you here in the region, Dr. Blasingame.
I look forward to being there. Unfortunately, it will probably be a lot later than we thought for everybody to travel, but I'll be there as soon as I can. I really appreciate the invitation. And I thank everyone for letting me get up in the middle of the night and not exactly look my best, but I've really enjoyed my time with you. And I know I talk too much, but if you guys ever need to try to connect with me, feel free to connect with me personally or with Ms. Ajana or Mr. Ignati. We're here to serve you as well as every other member. So with that, I think I'll step away and let them start their PETROBOWL.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, and now we officially opened our third Russian Caspian regional PETROBOWL qualifier. Good luck to all the team. Patience and all the best to facilitators and judges. And we'll see each other in 48 hours or so.
Good luck, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yes, good luck, everyone.
Good luck, dear students.
Good luck, everyone. See you during the games.